Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. This is going to be my eyeshadow palettes revisited for July. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Once a month, I like to select a couple of palettes that have been older in my makeup collection and that I just want to revisit, go back to, and see if I still enjoy them as much as I did when I first reviewed them. Some of these are old favorites. Some of these are more recent picks. And for the month of July, we had a very blue-heavy selection. So let me just get to it. Before we get into the video, maybe good to know who I am and what I like doing on this channel. My name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I have fair skin with a cool neutral undertone, and this greatly influences how I feel about makeup. I have been reviewing makeup for more than a decade. I love trying out eyeshadow palettes, Essence and Catrice, and getting the use out of my makeup. So if that's something you're interested in, then I hope you'd like to consider subscribing. So first things first, 5 palettes that I have selected. I select these every month in my Shop My Stash. So the first Tuesday of every month, I show you exactly what items are in my everyday makeup drawer for the month. So that gives you an idea of what eyeshadow palettes I will be testing for once, so which are new to me, but also like things I want to go back to in terms of like foundation or other complexion products such as blush. I also give you an update of all the lipsticks that I wore in the month previously. And I end up selecting usually 5 palettes from my collection that I want to do some more looks with that month. And sometimes I end up doing looks that I don't normally do, like I'm wearing today. Or I end up just doing my comfort look that I always do with that one palette. So I have, like I said, a very blue heavy selection today. I will be inserting the look that I did with every single palette, and I will chat to you about my experience so far. I'm not even sure whether these are all still available. I don't think most of these are still for sale. So just putting that out there. The one that I think you can still get is the Lunar Beauty Eternal Eclipse, and this is the palette that's on my eyes today. I went for this really nice, very smoky with a pop of blue sort of look, and I think this palette is really good for that. The Lunar Beauty Eternal Eclipse is the only Lunar Beauty palette I have ever tried. I tried this, I liked the quality quite a bit, but I didn't really feel like buying any of the other palettes that the brand has released since then. So in case you don't know, Lunar Beauty is the brand that is run by many MUA, and in this palette we get 5 sort of grayish blue tones, some neutral mattes, and then a full row of like shimmers. There is a warmer section here, which I always tend to ignore. And the look I'm wearing today is this pinky tone for the crease. Then I used this matte dark blue sort of in the outer V to create some depth there. And then I actually went in with the gray, which I don't normally do. I always go for the blue shimmer, but I put the gray pretty much all over the lid. And then I covered it up for the most part with the Meteor shade. And that is a shade that you can really sort of have that high shine towards the inner corner. That's the shade Meteor. That is my favorite shade in the entire palette. I used a little bit of this silver in the inner corner just to have a little bit more brightness in the very corner there. And I did end up using these 2 shades for the lower lash line. So a little bit of gray, a little bit of blue, and I definitely think that the blues in here really make the palette for me. If it didn't have that aspect, I just wouldn't have liked this as much. I really think the blues are the selling point. I did think that the crease ended up a little bit muddy, which is not something I feel I experienced in the past. I always go for that pinky tone in the crease. And I've never really experienced that, but it could be that I've put the gray with it, that it looks a little bit more muddy. But yeah, it ended up just looking a little bit murkier than I had expected. But I just decided to embrace it, and that's why I opted for that dark gray all over the lid, because I just felt that that would add to the murkiness and the smokiness of the look. And I definitely think that this is a very successful smoky eye. That's the reason why I have this palette. That's the reason why it sticks around in my collection. But I've had this for some years now, and I have already been pre-filming a lot of the videos of what you will be seeing from me in August, and I just know that come my next declutter, I really need to consider whether I want to get rid of this or not. Yes, I love it. I may just want to depot the Meteor shade from this and like put it in a single pan and like repress it and add it to my singles collection, because I think I can do this kind of look with other palettes that I have in my collection. So it's not wholly unique, but I did really enjoy having another play with this one again. That I really enjoyed playing with once again is the Love in London from BH Cosmetics. This is one of my favorite BH Cosmetics palettes that I have in my collection. This is incredibly stunning. It is very neutral heavy, but then it does have a little bit of like cooler tones. It has a touch of warmth, and then you get a purple and these like two blues and this grayish blue thing. So it has some pops of color to sort of like deepen things up, and I really enjoy the look that I did with this once again. Again, went for my comfort zone. This taupe shimmer always goes onto my eyes when I reach for this. I ended up using Palace in the inner quarter for some reason, and I think, yeah, the shade I went for this time was this one up here for the crease rather than something like this. Sometimes I go for this for the crease, sometimes I use this one or the one even next to it, and then I like deepen things up with this one, but I skipped this one this time. I just went in with a slightly deeper look in the crease and then that shimmer all over the lid. Really, really successful. Really enjoy this palette. Once again, I really adore this. I love the formula. If I had to keep just one BH Cosmetics palette in my collection, it would be this one. So this is definitely one that's not on the declutter pile anytime soon, because I still really love mine. And I wish they would bring it back. Like, now that it's owned by Makeup Revolution, and we do still have some of the travel palettes around, and of course they started redoing all of their travel palettes right around the time that they went bankrupt, but they never got around to redoing this one, and it still pains me a little bit because it's my favorite. Then the Beauté Oceanic palette is a blue-green palette that is after my heart. This is again not going anywhere. If I look at what the Lunar Beauty has to offer, I definitely think that I could do a similar look with something like this for sure. I ended up doing a pretty grungy look with this, which was one of my favorites. Yes, you have all these really fun bright pops of color here as well, so you can make this super vibrant and super intense and in your face. But I ended up going for these two green shades, this in the crease, this all over the lid, and then I just ended up using these two teals to complement it and to darken it up and to have it a little bit more smoky and pop some things on the lower lash line. So this was a really beautiful, very successful look once again. This is again the only Ace Beauté palette I have ever tried. I've never tried anything else from the brand, mainly because they just haven't really released any color stories that really stood out to me. There's definitely been a few that I have eyed up in the past. However, I don't think that this kind of color story can be beat, really. So from Ace Beauté, this is the only one I have, and it's the only one I'm going to keep around. This is also still in their old formula. They have reformulated since then. But yeah, ever since the brand is no longer available through Beauty Bay, because I think they were available through Beauty Bay, and that's how I got my hands on this. But then they pulled out, and that now they are available on Monolith, so that's great, but I don't think Monolith ever got this one in. So the Ace Beauté Oceanic palette, I think, is really, really pretty. It is definitely a blue-green palette that I think is really good, and it kind of beats a lot of blue-green or blue and green palettes that I have in my collection. Case in point, the Bubblegum by BH. I wanted to select this originally to have it go with the Love in London and like have a brighter pop of blue in there. But once I started doing the look with the Love in London, I just wanted to stick to that palette because I love it so much. So I just ended up using this, and I ended up using every single shade in this palette for a wonderfully bright blue look. However, and this has been my gripe with a lot of monochromatic palettes in the past, these undertones, they don't really go together. So while the final look turned out to be pretty, I'm not going to fault it. It is a very pretty look. I do think that like these two shimmers pull a little bit more green, and then this is like bright sky blue. So for me, the undertones don't really go together. I like these shades individually, but this is definitely a contender to be decluttered in the end because I have my blue palette from Glam Shop, and I think I like that just a little bit better. So the Bubblegum from BH may have seen its final days in my makeup collection for sure. While I do appreciate some of the shades in here, again, like with the Lunar Beauty, there's just one shade I really prefer, and it is this like teal shimmer thing. So maybe that could be a contender for it to be depotted and then get rid of the rest of the palette, because I kind of keep it around for that one shade. And then the final palette that I used is the Game Beauty Victory palette. And the Victory palette is one that I wanted to select because it has one of my favorite color stories for the summertime. And it is these warmer toned neutrals with a pop of teal. Granted, whenever I reach for this, I kind of ignore these really spicy things. I opt for the mustardy things instead, and then I just use the teals to go with it. The white isn't a white, it has a slightly blue flip, so if I remember correctly, because I used this like a week ago, I remember using the teals again in like the outer V and the lower lash line, because that's my favorite thing to do here, and using this in the inner corner, and I think I popped this all over the lid and then this in the inner corner, and maybe this is a bit of liner or something like that. So it was a pretty look. Again, I definitely have a few of these palettes, as you will see in some upcoming videos that I have already filmed for August. For the summertime, these like warm tones with a pop of blue is definitely my comfort zone. So I have a couple of palettes that can do that for me. And this was another really successful one. I love the look that came out of this. It's nice and curated. And can we just take a minute to appreciate the very gorgeous packaging that this has. Super duper pretty. I really adore this palette for that reason. So those were all of the eyeshadow palettes that I went back to in July. This was, I think, a very successful roundup again for me as well. But I'm definitely starting to realize that there are quite a few palettes that I just think I now have better alternatives for. So I think come March, I'm gonna have to do a really good declutter. I always do my declutters in the springtime. I'm currently really happy where my eyeshadow palette collection stands, and I hope you like to stay tuned for that, because I will be doing eyeshadow palette month in the month of August. I will have daily videos. We're gonna do lots of fun things with eyeshadow palettes. There's going to be a giveaway, and always traditionally I show you my entire eyeshadow palette collection towards the end of August. So I hope you like to stay tuned for all of that goodness. For now, I hope you like to thumbs up the video, and then I hope to see you in a new video very soon. Bye bye.